Do you like old muscle cars? Do you like LS swaps? How about a 1979 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am with an LS swap and a 6-speed? And it's California CARB compliant, believe it or not. Well, we're back. It's been a while since I've put out any videos, but it's been a really busy 3 or 4 months, and I haven't had a lot of time to film much, but I've been working hard, so it's kind of a trade-off right now, but I got more truck content coming, and we'll be back to kind of our regular programming. But this is a 1979 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am with an LS1 and a 6-speed. It will pass smog here in California, which is probably the biggest challenge about doing this whole project, was getting this thing emissions certified. So let me open the hood here and show you what I got working on. So about 2 years ago, I got this car from a neighbor of mine. I was really looking for some vintage muscle car, and I don't know if any of you guys are out there looking for vintage muscle cars, but anything from 1975 and older, so all the way down into the 50s, is pretty much unobtainable for some local yokel who doesn't have a bunch of pocket change and is just looking for a cheap and fun project to work on. So I've seen one of these a long time ago when I was a kid, walking around my neighborhood. I was wondering to myself, well, I wonder if it's still there. So I ended up hopping in my truck and driving down to the lady's house who this was parked out in front of, and sure enough, I knew her through family members, and she remembered who I was and went from saying, "Get the heck off my property," to, "Here, I'll give you this car for free." I couldn't get the pink slip because it was gone and there was no paperwork on this car, so there was a whole nother process I had to go through to get this thing registered and road legal. Borrowed a trailer from a friend, and I went down to the woman's house and picked up the car and hauled this thing all the way up to my home. And it kind of lived out in the side yard for about 3 months. I had some things going on. I got married and whatnot, and so I was kind of preoccupied, but with a little bit of free time here and there, I was able to change out a bunch of the worn out items, like all your rubber bushings and all the suspension linkages, all the shocks, all the axle seals, wheel bearings, you name it. I went through the whole bottom end of the car just so I could get it to roll. So for the engine and transmission, I had a 1999 Pontiac Firebird, and it was a pretty cool car, but it had a lot of 4th gen Pontiac problems. I felt cool when I was driving the car, but when I was looking at it in the parking lot, it didn't strike that feeling that I was looking for. So I decided I was going to pull the engine and transmission out and put it in this car. Here in California, if you want to do something like I did and do an engine change, technically you need to go to the Air Resources Board and get the thing verified. And that way, that in the future, if you go to sell it or smog it or whatever you need to do, you'll have a emissions label on your car saying that this is a whatever year your engine was issue car. So since the engine and transmission are out of a 99 Pontiac, this has to be smogged as a 99 Pontiac. And what else does that entail? That means that all of the electronics have to also come with said engine and transmission. So you have to run the engine, the transmission, the original air filter box, which This thing, I have two options. I have a approved aftermarket airbox that I am running, but also I have my own homemade unit here, which I'll get to in a minute. I did what I could to sculpt a larger diameter spout off of the air filter box, and I'm running it up to a 4-inch silicone elbow, and then I'm running it down through the stock MAF sensor and then back into the intake. I've got all my sensors hooked up in the appropriate places for intake air temp and mass airflow. To run this, you also have to have the factory catalytic converters. Everything behind the factory catalytic converters, you can run something aftermarket. I kept all that. The air pump and all the evap system stuff has to be on the car. The original fuel tank with the carbon filter and the original fuel pump and evap purge valves all have to be incorporated into the build. So what I did was I cut the floor out of this car because it was rusty anyways, and I cut the floor out of the 99 and welded the two together. So now the stock 99 fuel tank will bolt in like it was stock in factory, and I don't have any clearance issues, I don't have any revving. The only downside is I lose some trunk space, but being that this was going to be kind of a track car, I wasn't too worried about having a bunch of trunk space. It's basically a 99 Pontiac with a 1979 shell around it. The same transmission cross members in this car, it's just been tweaked a little bit in a couple of spots to accommodate the T56. T56 is longer, and the overall height though, the T56 isn't really a problem. As far as the engine, all I did was I went online and I bought some Dirty Dingo engine mounts, and they're just these slotted brackets that allow you to bolt stock 350 Chevy clamshell motor mounts to them, and then they're slotted so you can actually move them back and forth along the side of the LS engine, and that'll allow you to basically kind of position your LS where you want it in pretty much any GM car. And being that Pontiac is a GM car, it was really straightforward. I had to drill a couple of new holes in the engine cross member just to move the engine back enough so that way the stock F-body oil pan would clear the cross member. I'm in that spot where I don't know which direction I want to go. Do I restore it? Do I fully turn it into an autocross machine? I'm not sure. So while I think about that, I'm just going to enjoy the car for what it is and drive it and turn heads.